But do you know what I mean? I mean,
yes, I do
you
know.
two...
I mean, there's no doubt there's something in that that will speak for, obviously.
Did it do anything did that sort of thing operate with you and Oswald Mosley?
Probably, yes.
That's as much as you're going to say.
It could be so, yes.
At the end of the book, she makes a quite interesting comment, the Duchess of Windsor. She's looking at ex-King Umberto of Italy in another corner of the room, and she says, they'll forget him. And then she turns to the Duke of Windsor and says that they remember him, the Duke, because of me.
Yes. Well, that was told me by a very clever French journalist who was there. And he said, don't you think it's interesting? He said, you see, it's so true. It's such an extraordinary story that, I mean, if it was told in a novel, one wouldn't believe it. And the fact of the matter is that people will speak of them, I suppose, always. And try and solve what is really an enormous problem. I mean, what was it that he saw in her which was so very special? But none of us will ever know that. So there we are.
Let's move now to Jack Levine, who's supplied or helped you with the photographs of this book. You worked a lot with them. You actually went to the mill.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that right at the heart of this mesmerizing story, there is something missing. I don't know what it is. Did she mesmerize him?
Well, I think he certainly was attracted by her kind of American upbringing, her independence, and her lack of servility toward him. That was one thing that attracted him.
And how did that operate? You saw them together?
Well, yes, she treated him as any woman would treat her husband or her friend, rather than one of his subjects. I think that appealed to him. But beyond that, I must say that it's in a realm of mystery that will never be. No one will ever know why he was so attracted to her that he gave up his throne for her.
Did she have illusions of grandeur then?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't criticize anybody for wanting to marry the most attractive man in the world who is about to be King of England. I mean, that's a pretty good ambition. And
why is it then, even behind my nagging, gnawing questions,
yes.
there is this idea that she did the wrong thing, that she took this gentleman away from us? You see, we're all motivated by that.
Well, she didn't do it. He did it. I mean, he gave up the throne.
Yes, he did.
You know, and I must say that if it were me, I would keep the throne rather than the woman.
Well, your head's screwed on the right way.
There are very few thrones around. But
there aren't many left, are there, Chuck? She could behave, though, quite grandly. I mean, you had a scene with a friend of yours who flew in.
Well, that wasn't grand. I know what you're talking about. We were in the middle of making the film, shooting it at their mill house in Paris, and a friend of mine who had invested in the film had taken his girlfriend to East Africa, and he telephoned me from Nairobi and happened to catch me at the mill house in a room that I was sitting with the Duke. And he said, listen, I'd like to bring my girlfriend up from Nairobi tomorrow to the mill house and see you shooting the film. And so I asked the Duke, and he said, okay. He didn't have a chance to check the Duchess. And the next day, my friend had flown up all night from Nairobi to Paris and driven down to the mill house. And they arrived, and the Duchess gave them a drink, sat down, and they finished the drink. The Duchess said, well, how about one for the road? They hadn't yet had a chance to see any filming at all. The Duchess sent them on their way. She was quite right.
So she could be quite grand, then?
Well, she was quite determined to do things the right way. Yeah, perhaps grand.
What happened when they saw your film?
When they saw it for the first time at the Palais de Chaillot, was a private premiere for themselves and 2,000 or 3,000 of their close friends. I found myself in a corner of the room where I could, instead of watching the film, which I'd seen 2,000 times by then, I could watch the Duke and the Duchess. And the Duchess had a handkerchief in her hand, and the Duke had her hand in his. And using her handkerchief, he kept wiping the tears from his eyes. I thought it was rather moving.
You missed a good shot there, Jack, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You should have been shooting that.
I know.
You should. What have you brought with you, as if I didn't know, that's sitting on the desk quite proudly in front of you? What is that?
It's the microphone which Edward VIII used for the abdication speech at Windsor. And when he finished making the speech, or sometime after, the BBC presented it to him. This. And he reenacted, when we made the film, the Duke reenacted the abdication speech for us. It had only been radio before that. and he reenacted it for us on film.
Were you nervous about asking him to do that?
Everybody was quite emotional about it. We cleared as many of the technicians out as possible from this room, and so there remained the Duke and the Duchess, the sound man, the cameraman, and myself. And I must say, except for the Duke, everybody else was terribly moved by it. The Duchess was crying. The sound man with his earphones on was wiping tears from his eyes. But the Duke was very majestic about the whole thing and repeated the abdication speech a half a dozen times for us. And strangely enough, when we compared it with the original abdication speech made 30 years before, they sounded very much alike. He made the same errors and so on, somehow.
And he gave you that?
And then he gave me the microphone when we finished as a souvenir. And
I find that extraordinary. You didn't indicate by a lift of the eyebrow that you wouldn't mind having that, did you?
I sort of looked longingly at it.
And he cottoned on.
Yes. Well, I think the royalty has a habit of looking at something, saying they like it.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes,
well, I looked at it and
you got it.
And I got it. Yeah.
And what have you done with it? You haven't made it into a cigarette machine.
No, I haven't at all. But I have put a little cassette inside with the abdication speech on it, and it runs for 7 minutes. If you'd like to hear a little portion of it.
I now quit altogether public affairs, and I lay down my burden. It may be some time before I return to my native land, but I shall always follow the fortunes of the British race and empire with profound interest. And if at any time in the future I can be found of service to His Majesty in a private station, I shall not fail. And now we all have a new king. I wish him and you, his people, happiness and prosperity with all my heart. God bless you all. God save the King.
Jack Nibley and Lady Mosley, thank you.